All right, so we're learning more and more about the Federal Reserve and what they really do and don't do. It's more and more crazy. The deeper you get into it, the crazier it is.
Who exactly owns the federal debt? There are two types of federal debt: marketable securities and non marketable securities. Non marketable securities are just a paper game where the U.S. government borrows from the left pocket to put into the right pocket. Back when Clinton was president, they claimed they had a budget surplus. It was a lie. They had shifted debt between the Social Security Trust Fund and the regular budget. In reality, total debt increased during the time because they were using real borrowed funds to pretend it was revenue. Anyway, these funds owed by the U.S. government to the U.S. government are non marketable securities. They are not traded on the markets because they are just debt on the books, left pocket, right pocket. They are an accounting gimmick.
I don't know if I can fully get my head wrapped around this, but I just hate the games of the Federal Reserve. Um, the Fed will die in bankruptcy court. Maybe initial mean Maybe the initial meaning of drain the swamp. Goodbye income tax. Goodbye IRS. I sure hope so. I sure hope so.
The marketable securities, however, are real debt. The U.S. government has not had a real budget surplus in many decades. It constantly spends more than it takes in as revenue, and the difference is borrowed each year. That's why the national debt is over 22 trillion. Currently, the marketable securities are about 17 trillion of the 22 trillion, and the other 6 trillion might be is a 1-2 punch to take down the Federal Reserve and eliminate the income tax. As the Federal Reserve prints money to fund these special purpose vehicles, which buy up corporate bond and other non-government assets, the Federal Reserve is also printing money to buy up U.S. Treasury debt at 2.5 trillion in purchases per month. If the Federal Reserve is buying the real debt and not the fake debt, then they will own all of it in about 7 months, right around the time of the election. Of course, if they are also using that new money to buy up the new bonds being printed because of the stimulus bill, then it would take a little bit longer.
Wow, so let me get your head around this. If they're buying up real debt, they'll be done at about the time of election. Are they going to declare bankruptcy? We'll see.
If they are also using the same money to fund the special purpose vehicles, then it will take longer still. But sooner or later, the Federal Reserve will end up owning all of the debt, either directly or by issuing loans to the special purpose vehicles. You see, instead of everybody else being in debt to the Federal Reserve will be in debt to everyone else. And then Congress passes law abolishing the Federal Reserve and letting it die in bankruptcy court. In bankruptcy court, all of its transactions for the past however many years would be made available to the trustees and ultimately the public to learn what they've been doing with all that money all these years. The U.S. Treasury then takes over the printing presses, but backed by gold. Over time, and without interest bearing money, the federal government could get back to its constitutional limitations, and Congress could abolish the income tax. This would be such a mind blowing phenomenon to the general public that they would have no choice but to wake up. And the Fed. And we need to remember that the Federal Reserve, it's a private corporation. And if this private corporation goes bankrupt, who do we know that has a huge amount of experience in bankruptcy defaults? Who knows how to maneuver around everything? Trump. They have set the central bank system up. They're prepared and ready to make their move.
All right, we'll see if that happens. It's mind blowing to think this could be possible. I sure hope it goes. I sure hope to go bankrupt. I sure hope we get back on gold. We will see. This thing about Seth Rich is bigger than we know. We're pretty sure that he's been assassinated by the Clinton group, one way or another. Will they ever get the documents out? Will they actually be able to press charges on related stuff? It's related to the Clintons. We'll see.
Related to Seth Rich from FBI after new testimony from former Department of Justice Assistant U.S. Attorney discloses the FBI did examine Seth Rich's computer. Now, we know that as we move forward, if we go back to 2018, there are posts that relate to certain things that are going to happen. Just like when we saw the censorship come down with Google and you're able to see all of the Ray Chandler pictures and everything like that, I do believe all of this is being done on purpose, and we're following the story from the post from 2 years ago. So if we look at April 19th, 2018, this is post 1195. Yes, we haven't hit it yet, April 19th, but it is coming up. We're moving into April. And Anon says, when we will find out about Seth Rich and Las Vegas? Q answered, Seth Rich connect to DNC. MS-13, Julian Assange, who is now being tried to see if the U.S. can extradite him back to the U.S., which I do believe this will happen. I do believe he's the source. And it says, why did the D's push legal rep on family? And then it says June ETA. Now, back then, everyone thought June ETA was going to be that June. Now, remember, Q just can't come out and tell us when all these things are going to happen. Q has to give us the information, and we have to figure it out because the deep state and everyone else is looking at this. So now, if we look at this today, this April 2018 post, it's starting to make a little bit more sense. Patriots are in complete control. Julian Assange right now is being extradited back to the U.S. He's on trial for that. We also have an attorney that's requesting all the documents to Seth Rich because now we come to find out that they do have some information. So everything is changing. And what's very interesting is that since Trump signed the Defense Production Act and activated it, we know that he can control the economy. He can control manufacturers. He can say, oh, this is critical infrastructure. And within this, Trump has declared gun stores critical. So this is very interesting because right now he knows he needs...
Gun stores critical. Interesting. Why?
...to protect the Second Amendment, because the deep state has been trying to remove the Second Amendment, which they really can't. And they've been trying to remove the weapons from the people. And through this Defense Production Act, he has now said and declared that gun stores are critical to the infrastructure. So this is very interesting. Now, we know that this entire event is moving along. The mainstream media, they're pushing fear, panic, and they're trying to create chaos. There are certain corrupt politicians that are trying to do the same. We know that certain individuals have been hoarding medical supplies, and this is being done on purpose, just like Puerto Rico. When we found this gigantic warehouse of all the supplies, they're doing the same thing here to create panic and chaos. And we know that there are certain individuals, deep state players, who are getting the virus, and we also have others who are putting themselves into quarantine to be out of the way when everything goes down. Now, what's very interesting is every day we get more and more individuals that are turning up who have it, and these are part of the deep state. And we're starting to get word now that Placido Domingo has coronavirus. He's in Mexico. Now remember, he was brought up on charges for sexual harassment. And it seems that those charges are now credible. And there are certain...
Okay. So there's a lot of this still going on. So this is going to be played out through June and July, August, September, October, even up to the election day. A lot is going to happen in this year.
From New York City, by doing this. And again, this is fake, phony, and false. Now, Trump came out and his 15-day social distancing guidelines, that expired today, Monday. So he came out and he extended the guidelines to April 30th, 2020. Dan Scavino Jr. tweeted this out. President @ Donald Trump will be extending the national social distancing guidelines through April 30th, 2020. More information and details will be rolled out on Tuesday, March 31st. Now, does this mean, oh, the entire mission is done? No. All he did was say, okay, I'm going to extend this to the end of April, which he can automatically say, you know something? We now have control over the coronavirus, and we don't have to extend it to April 30th anymore. And what's very interesting is that we've said this from the beginning. How do you shut down fear, panic, and chaos with a snap of a finger? Well, you introduce a cure. What did Trump do in the very beginning? He introduced the cure, hydroxychloroquine, and with other drugs. And he said, this is going to be a game changer. This is going to be something that we're going to need. Now, what did the mainstream media do? They started making up stories. Oh, this person died from it, but they didn't die from hydroxychloroquine because that's prescribed by a doctor. They took chloroquine phosphate, which is used for fish that have infections, and they died from that. So that story had nothing to do with what Trump was talking about. Then they said, well, if you overdose, if you take too much, you're going to overdose from this drug, which is absolutely ridiculous. And Don Jr. came out and said, okay, if I drink or take anything in large quantities, I'm going to overdose or get sick or something like that. So that is another ridiculous story. I mean, do they really think people are that stupid? It's like, okay, it's safe to drink.
Yes, they are. That's stupid. Some of them. Some aren't. Some are waking up.
Alcohol, so someone goes in and drinks isopropyl alcohol that you have in your cabinet? No. People know that that's not what you use. The mainstream media, they are just trying everything and anything. So already we're in the next phase. So Trump mentioned hydroxychloroquine. Now the FDA has come out, and the FDA gives emergency approval to use anti-malaria drugs to fight coronavirus. So the Food and Drug Administration, they are giving doctors emergency permission to use the drug.
Which is good. We'll find out. This works. It's already been proven. Matter of fact, again, I'm telling you, they took down the video from Glenn Beck and my video, which was there. YouTube's been fighting this. All this is going to come out in time. We already have the cure. The benefits do outweigh the risk. So they've already been proven in 2 or 3 medical tests. All right.
Trials, and he's absolutely right. The deep state, the D's, the mainstream media, they're being exposed.
They need to be more exposed than exposed. They need to be shut down.
Our founders knew viruses and plagues. They didn't let it infect, exempt our Bill of Rights. And that reminds me of Post 1105. This is April 9th, 2018. Class action lawsuits are very effective. 2 billion people, global, scale, regulation or kill. People have the power to decide. And this is falling right into place. Now we are seeing the deep state players, they are panicking. James Comey yesterday gave us this game, Camel Up, with a pyramid, the top of the pyramid knocked off. This is the camels running, who's going to run next? And then he tweeted out, good day for a walk with a household member. Now the picture is a tunnel of a person walking into the light. Think about that for a second. So Joe M., he looked at this and he tweeted this out. Light at the end of the tunnel. The Oxford Dictionary for Euphemisms mentions taking a walk as a term spies use when they defect. Say at Comey, just where are you walking to exactly? So this is what Joe put up. Take a walk, to leave involuntarily or undo taboo circumstances. In espionage, fiction, it means to defect. So in this picture, in this tunnel, this individual is walking towards the light. Go toward the light has been associated loosely, which means to die. So what is Comey trying to say here? And then we had Hillary Clinton. She tweeted this out. The next several weeks may be some of the hardest we've faced as a country. From those in the front lines to those saving lives by staying at home, let's remember to be kind to each other, be patient, and remember the power of our collective humanity, even when we're apart. So what is she really saying here? The next several weeks will be some of the hardest we've faced as a country. Is she talking to others saying that they're coming for us? Because 4 minutes later, Eric Holder tweeted this out. Wisconsin, today is the deadline to register to vote in the state Supreme Court election that happens on April 7th. Judge Jill Karofsky will make an excellent justice. So why did they mention April 7th? What are they worried about? Julian's Rum tweeted this out. Hillary's tweet at 12:07. Then Holder tweets 4 minutes later about Wisconsin Supreme Court elections on April 7th. Seems like they're worried about something on April 7th. Well, on April 7th is World Health Day. And the day marks the founding of the World Health Organization. We know that organization is corrupt. Are they going to be exposed? But then I started to say, something, let's look 2 years ago to April 7th, 2018. And this is post 1071. And this, to me, is amazing. Now, in this post, it says, talking to you anon. We always see it's happening here. The tone, war, April showers. Now, under this, it says, Eric Holder, California. Relevant soon. Q. Then if we move to post 1072, it says, border states are very key, bigger than you can imagine. The pipeline, not R versus D. California is special. Public will learn. Now, that is just very, very interesting because Q has always told us to look at California. California is special. And Eric Holder talked about April 7th. So is something coming? It's starting to seem that way. Then we find out today that at least 5 Congress members have now tested positive for the coronavirus. Representative Nydia M. Velasquez announced that she has presumed coronavirus infection. Now, what's very interesting about this is that she was near Pelosi and other lawmakers last week. Now, once again, we need to track who is getting the coronavirus. I think this is going to be very important because I think some of them are going to use this as an escape. And those who are not, those people, those corrupt politicians and others, they're going to be investigated, and it has already started. Federal law enforcement officials are now investigating a series of stock market transactions that were made by U.S. lawmakers prior to the stock market tanking as a result of the coronavirus. Who are these individuals? Senator Richard Burr, Dianne Feinstein, Senator Kelly Loeffler, Jim Inhofe, and many others. And I do believe that this is going to go further back than just this coronavirus. I believe this is going to open up an incredible investigation to see who has been using insider trading to allow themselves to get very, very wealthy. And Technofog tweeted out something very interesting about Senator Richard Burr. This is what Technofog said. Senator Richard Burr, under inquiry by the feds for his stock sales, has retained counsel. His lawyer is former Department of Justice Assistant AG Alice Fisher. Alice Fisher stopped victim notification letters from going to the young girls Jeffrey Epstein abused.
Wow.
And this is the lawyer that he is using. Very interesting. Sounds like she's bought and paid for. So how do you show this 16-year plan to the American people, to the world? How do you show them?
Yeah, I think you mentioned this 16-year plan. Obviously, Trump started working with the military 10 years before he got elected. Obviously, I should say not 10 years, but at least 6 to 10 years before he got elected. And that makes, depending on how you calculate, if you use 10 years plus his 4 years, that's 14 years. 10 years plus, if it's 8 years before he got elected and 8 years after he's elected, that's 16 years. And maybe it was 8 years before he got elected, and maybe it's 8 years after he's elected. I don't know. But sometime in there is a plan that he's been working with the military intelligence.
That these individuals were preparing to take away our rights and destroy the country. How do you show the world this? You shut it down. You shut it down. You shut down business. You take away all the noise. You take away the distractions. You allow people to start to think logically, to start to question things. Because when you remove the noise, when you remove everything around you, you can start to see clearly. And I've noticed a lot of people are starting to question things. They're starting to go and read what's going on here. They're starting to hear the strange messages. They're starting to say, what is going on here? And they're questioning the mainstream media. They're questioning the corrupt politicians. They're questioning it all. Now, does this mean 100%? No. This means that the majority of the people now are starting to wake up. Yes, there's going to be those few, you might even know them, will have a very difficult time waking up. I know some of them.
All right, we're going to end it here. But this 16-year plan that you keep coming up with, I've always said Trump started this about 6 years before he got elected, but I could be off 2 years. And if that's the case, then we've got 8 years before he's elected, 8 years while he gets into first and second terms, that's 16 years. Maybe that was a 16-year plan. So if that's the case, he actually got started about 8 years before he was elected, and the 8 years in his first and second terms, that's the 16-year plan. Wow, amazing. It's Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. Stay informed, stay in tune, stay spiritually sharp, stay healthy and safe, but mostly stay engaged with people inside and outside your faith, inside and outside of politics, in your homes and families. Be diligent, be vigilant, and be victorious. Good day.